Patriot. I wanted you to hear this directly from me. Biden's Department of Justice has once again indicted me, this time, over the events that took place on January 6th. As you know, I did nothing wrong. It's well documented that I told Americans to act peacefully, and discourage the use of any violence. This is nothing but an egregious act of election interference, and a final act of desperation from Crooked Joe as he crashes in the polls. The entire Biden administration knows that I'm the only candidate who would defeat Crooked Joe in a free and fair election. They know how much support we have from the hard-working people of our country. But more importantly, they know that I'm the only candidate who can dismantle the deep state and end their stranglehold on our nation. So, their only hope is to try and send me to jail for the rest of my life. A Soros-backed state prosecutor first tried to break us, when he indicted and arrested me earlier this spring, despite having committed no crime at all. But when it became clear that his attack failed to break us, Crooked Joe summoned a federal prosecutor to indict me, despite having committed no crime once again. Now, they're hoping that they've finally dealt the final blow by indicting me in the belly of the beast, Washington, D.C. If these illegal persecutions succeed, if they're allowed to set fire to the law, then it will not stop with me. Their grip will close even tighter around you. As I've always said, they're not after me. They're after you. I'm only standing in the way. And even after 3 indictments, I will continue to stand in their way, because the fate of our nation hangs in the balance in the 2024 election. It's not just my freedom on the line, but yours as well, and I will never let them take it from you. If you're doing poorly due to the evil and corrupt people in Washington, D.C., who are destroying our country right now, then just hit the back button and go about your day. But if not, I don't have to tell you that the stakes of this election have never been greater. Our republic is hanging by a thread. And America needs you right now.
Jordan, this is yet another example of how far President Joe Biden's politicized Department of Justice is willing to go to try to destroy his main political opponent as a presidential election is going on. This foundational purpose of what the Biden administration is doing is really the thing that should be most concerning to everyone. As we can see all of these indictments, count after count after count, being thrown at former President Donald Trump, is clearly an effort to divert his focus away from the campaign and towards fighting on multiple fronts in these lawsuits, and to completely drain him and his campaign of resources so that they can't focus on actually campaigning and trying to win this election. The founders envisioned that our country would be a country of laws, not of men. And what we're seeing here, most concerning as it relates to the First Amendment, but you take all of these different attacks and indictments in whole, what we're seeing is a politicized Department of Justice that has disqualified itself from being able to fulfill the awesome responsibility that they're entrusted with, because they are using it, first of all, to go after their political opponents, namely Donald Trump and his supporters, and also using the Department of Justice to protect the Democrat elite, namely President Joe Biden and by extension, Hunter Biden. So we're seeing how this politicized Department of Justice is being used to achieve both of those purposes, both of which harm the American people's interests, the interests of our country and our democracy.
This is the Biden political lawfare that we have seen time and time again. It is a deflection from everything that they have done. And if you don't believe me, look at the facts. On March 17th, Hunter accidentally admits that it was his laptop from hell. The next day, DA Alvin Bragg indicts President Trump. June 8th, an FBI document is released showing that the Ukrainians paid the Biden crime family millions and millions of dollars. The next day, the Mar-a-Lago raid and the Mar-a-Lago indictment. Last week, Hunter Biden's sweetheart plea deal fell through when the judge realized it had blanket immunity. The following day, a superseding indictment against Donald Trump. July 31st, Devin Archer goes to testify in front of the House. That was only after they failed to put him in jail prior to the fact. What happens the next day? The January 6th indictment that we're here for today. This is not a coincidence. This is election interference at its finest against the leading candidate right now for president, for either party. President Trump is under siege in a way that we have never seen before. President Trump and his legal team and everyone on his team will continue to fight, not for him, but for the American people. I'll take some questions.
Thank you. I know the president has called this a witch hunt. You just laid out several examples of that. Any other thoughts that the president has communicated to you in terms of why this is going on and then why he calls it a witch hunt?
I think a witch hunt is really the way that anybody should describe this, because it's not something we've seen in our time. This is not even political. This is beyond that. A witch hunt is when you relentlessly attack your opponent, when you relentlessly attack the thing that you are most afraid of. People are afraid of somebody that cannot be bought by Washington. People are afraid of somebody who is independently wealthy and who has given up his good life to fight for this country. And that frightens a lot of politicians who are career politicians, unfortunately, because he'll get back there, and I know he'll be fighting for every one of us so that this doesn't happen to us.
You say this case is about free speech, but the special counsel says Trump could have disagreed with the results and talked about it. No crime there. The difference is what he did to try and switch the votes.
So what is it that he did to try and switch the votes that you refer to? By bringing cases, by using the law in an appropriate manner, unlike what we're sitting here today seeing. This is not appropriate. What President Trump did is he said, go patriotically and peacefully and protest. That is an American right. That is why we are America and we are not a third world country. Although I will say that today, I don't feel very much like we are in America. Yes.
This case should go forward before or after the 2024 presidential election?
I think that every court needs to look at this as a whole, right? It's not about the January 6th case. It's about the fact that in the matter of a couple months, we have seen them try and tie up, and me as an attorney, I've never seen this, tie up one individual who's running a campaign, running for office for president, so that he is in court, in depositions, and distracted, so that he won't properly run for 2024. And frankly, it's not going to work.
Well, thank you very much. This is a very sad day for America, and it was also very sad driving through Washington, D.C. and seeing the filth and the decay and all of the broken buildings and walls and the graffiti. This is not the place that I left. It's a very sad thing to see it. When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America. This is the persecution of the person that's leading by very, very substantial numbers in the Republican primary and leading Biden by a lot. So if you can't beat him, you persecute him or you prosecute him. We can't let this happen in America. Thank you very much.
Do you want these trials to happen before the 2024 election?